Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And it's banned
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Excellent. Well, we made it to Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. Is that 2004?
2004. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Well, I'll say this. It's weird that if you had asked me when we started this what would hold up better, I wouldn't have told you X-Men 2.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I would have been like, I don't know. I probably won't like X-Men 2 as much. I don't know. Who knows? But we just recorded that last week, and I feel like we both were like, no, that held up where it needed to.
Yeah, that movie sat well. The themes that it was addressing are very current, and I think that's one of the biggest things about why it holds up so much better than this. Watching this one second time around.
Yeah, I think what really hit me, and it didn't. I mean, my initial thing, like when these movies were first coming out, and I would buy the DVDs after they came out, was I think in Spider-Man 3, it was Tobey Maguire in the commentary being like, "Well, the audience comes to see like I feel like he said him, like not Peter Parker, but him, because there's so many scenes in that movie where." Like the opening scene in Spider-Man 3 where he does like all the action without the mask on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I feel like Topher Grace was kind of like, oh yeah, like it would have been nice if this was a Spider-Man sequence. And Tobey Maguire's kind of like, well, the audience is here for the actors just as much as they are for Spider-Man. I'm like, no, not me.
Yeah.
I want to see Spider-Man do stuff, but it's whatever. But I think what this rewatch drove home was, this movie is mostly concerned with Peter Parker.
Yes.
Not
it's entirely centered around Peter Parker, and that's
not Spider-Man.
No,
not anyone else. Really, it's really about what Peter Parker has to give up in his life,
or thinks he has to give up.
Right, because as we said on the first Spider-Man thing, it's like that's a weird sacrifice he decided to make that doesn't really hold up.
And I'm glad they actually addressed it in the dialogue in this one. How that
he
played
even
out
states it better. He's more like he kind of states like this. I don't even remember how he states it. I'm getting mixed up now. But like I feel like it's better stated in this second movie what he is trying to accomplish.
Correct.
Because in that first movie, I'm like, no, that's not how that works. You're not gonna like save her by saying you don't love her. Like that's not what makes her safe.
Yeah, correct. Like we concluded, I believe we concluded, anyways, when we recorded Spider-Man the Spider-Man 1 episode, that him not communicating, lying to her about his love or lack of for her is just, it's entirely pointless from the perspective, and it goes to show it proves itself in this movie right away. Just like, okay, well, they're not romantically together, but she still gets screwed over because of him, because he refuses to, like, and this is the worst part. It's just like, I feel like I would respect his decision more if he committed to being like, okay, you know what I have to do now is I have to make me look like an asshole in front of you, so you will avoid me, so that nobody will actively try to. He
doesn't even have to do that. He should just stop being like, oh, I'm going to come to your play, or I'm going to do that. Like he's the one that's setting himself up for failure. It's
he totally is.
Yeah, like it's like I said, his commitment to Spider-Man will mean he won't be there for her. Yeah. And that's what we kind of concluded on. So like, if that's your issue, then don't say no, it's because I don't love you. Like, I'm and he even says I'll always be there for you. But like that isn't it. And so anyway, this movie is concerned about that perceived sacrifice of like he needs, and I feel like Doc Ock even says like love is important, like that's what's gonna screw you over is like not being true to that stuff. which I think plays out well in the whole he can't do his web shooting. He's losing his powers because he's holding back for basically everyone. He's holding back with Aunt May because he can't tell her that he's the reason Uncle Ben died. He can't tell his friend, in quotation marks, Harry, about what happened with his dead dad, and he can't tell Mary Jane that he loves her. So there's all these things, different forms of love are being denied for him, and that's what's screwing him over during this movie. But it is what's screwing over Peter more so than his entirety of being Spider-Man. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it was just interesting this time around how, like, I feel like it's clear in any given movie who the director is, like, really identifying with and who he's, like, going for. And it's this watch through, I feel like it's like, yeah, Sam Raimi likes Peter Parker.
Yes.
Spider-Man is someone that, and I think we've had times where we're saying, like, that kind of, because his Peter Parker bleeds into his Spider-Man so much, because he's not, he does have his moments of being like wahoo, but he's pretty much like the same throughout. Like, he's still pretty sullen as Spider-Man as he is as Peter Parker. And I think it feels like a choice maybe by Toby, but also that a choice that Sam Raimi 100% like backs, because it seems like that's who he cares about. There's so much time with Peter, dealing with Peter things throughout the movie. And I feel like every time a Spider-Man thing happens, kind of just like, oh yeah, I guess while we're going to interrupt this drama about this guy who can't tell people what he really feels, to like be like, oh yeah, also he's a superhero, Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, it's just, I respect it a lot less because, the reasoning behind his decisions are completely incoherent at this point in time. In the sense where he, like from the first movie, let's say that, yes, okay, it'd be stupid to follow a character that makes the right decisions all the time, or all that kind of stuff. And I agree. I 100% agree with that, because of, you get characters like Captain America, which I continuously shit on for being like a goody-goody or like Boy Scout.
But you mean that from the comics, not from the
MCU. The comics, not the MCU. Yes. Yeah. And from Superman from the comics as well, being like one-dimensional characters that'll always do the morally good thing. This blurs the lines a lot more, but it does it in a very, very frustrating way, because he does it where he basically gaslights everyone around him, and he just kind of like doesn't hear their story, makes decisions for them, and then he doesn't really pass them all together.
You're right, but I feel like specifically that scene with Harry at his birthday party, like, he tries the least amount with Harry. He's kind of just like, Harry's like, so like, you work with Spider-Man killed my dad, like, any intel here? And he's like, can we just get off this? Like, he doesn't even pretend like, well, I don't know, I haven't talked to him in a while. He's just like, I just don't want to talk about this, I'm completely shutting you down now, we're done with this.
Yeah, it's nonsense the way he carries his relationships. He's just like, hey, I know, I recognize that this is important to you, but I'm going to hold all this power in the relationship and just deny you your request to have a conversation.
Yeah, because I'm rewatching the cartoon because it's on Disney Plus, and like, he is shitty to Harry in that too. Like, and I don't just mean like, oh, like, it sucks that happened to Harry. I'm like, no, he's just a shitty friend to Harry, even in that. But in those instances, you're always like, yeah, but he has to go save the day right now. Like, he can't talk to Harry right now.
Yes.
But in this movie, they're like, what else is he doing? He's already there to like be done with the day with Aunt May. And then, so like, it's not like, oh, sorry, Harry, I can't talk about this right now. It's just him flat out being like, no, I'm shutting this down. I don't want to talk about it.
The issue with this movie is that I would get how, like, a lot of this movie is about relationships and time management and all that kind of stuff, which is hilarious to me, because the first scene where he's like, oh, I got to get the pizza delivery scene is a really interesting way of proving that, from the perspective of, here are your limitations as Peter Parker / Spider-Man, here are the things, but here are also the ways that benefit you in getting these kind of things if you planned and scheduled out things a little bit better. It's the idea of the commitment of, okay, you can try to do this as Peter Parker, or that this ask is unrealistic and you just do it as Spider-Man, get to that closet, that broom closet or whatever, and just kind of get the pizza there beforehand. It just all these decisions or lack of decision and is what I want to say is Peter in this movie. It seems like everything that happens around him happens because he waits until the absolute last minute until he knows. He's like, oh, well, I guess I have to be Spider-Man, but I'm not going to do it. And then he just like does it. And it's really frustrating the whole time throughout this whole movie.
Yeah. And I think that's what sunk the movie from. And I'm not saying like, oh boy, what a shit movie. It's still got it's got very strong moments that still work. I think definitely Doc Ock still works. I really like J. Jonah Jameson in this movie.
Yes.
I can't really the MJ, Harry, and Peter stuff. I'm kind of like, I just feel like
the weakest part of this movie.
Yeah, we've had, and I don't mean the storyline. I mean like just me feeling engaged with their stuff. I'm just always like, it doesn't feel like they're giving it their all the way we've seen.
No,
I would say even in the DCEU, as much as people don't like a performance like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. You can say you don't like it and you think it's stupid, but he's like trying something and doing something.
He's committed.
I like it. I like it, but like I get why people are like, that's off-putting. I don't like it.
Yep.
It doesn't feel like, especially James Franco is really trying that much.
No.
It seems like he's kind of smirking through most of this. It doesn't. I don't know what's going on with. I don't know what's going on with Mary Jane. I like Kirsten Dunst. She's kind of in it, kind of not.
Yeah.
Kind of like sleepwalking through it. So it's just like, and then like I was watching a bit with Pauline, and she was like, "What's with Rosemary Harris who plays Aunt May?" I'm like, well, I mean, like she's trying something, like because if you put her in a scene with those three, it does make her look kind of weird. But I'm like, but I would prefer people giving it their all, like she is, and not kind of like.
And I agree with you. In the movie where everything is so over the top, it doesn't fit that Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson's characters are toned down in their performance. You'd expect everything to be a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more overdone. Where was that from the first movie, where Kirsten Dunst's reactions to everything were comedic and over the top, which fit the movie tone a lot better than this one. This one, everything, the world around them was over the top. The shots, the camera angles, the theatrics, everything is over the top except their performance, which is like, what are they holding it back on purpose, or what's the direction here? I don't get it. It doesn't match.
Yeah,
it's weird.
So there's that. Yeah, I think it's the fact that they're focused on Peter, but like I'm here for the superhero element of it, and they don't get me wrong, like from the point where Doc Ock throws the car through the window while Peter and MJ are meeting, they're giving you the superhero stuff. But like, I feel like there's even moments of the movie I'm like, isn't Doc Ock in this movie? Like, it just seems like he's completely not a factor.
Yeah,
for, like,
I mean,
10 minutes or so. Like
for like a huge second,
like, obviously,
not. Yeah, but
like obviously before he turns into Ock, he's not a factor. But that's because this movie is so focused on Peter.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I don't think you need to. I know people ding MCU for that, but like, I don't think you need to like focus on the villain that much. Like, it doesn't need to be like a Batman Returns thing where everyone's like, "Oh, well, that was the Penguin and Catwoman movie."
Agreed.
It, like, I think you can focus on your hero. It's just if you're focusing specifically on Peter Parker, then it does make everyone else seem kind of ancillary. Ancillary is the word I was trying to look for, but like, it kind of makes you feel like, well, yeah, I guess we don't really have time to like dig into Doc Ock because he is going to bring out the Spider-Man aspects. And we don't really like, even though it was like, oh, Otto Octavius is Peter Parker's hero. He was writing a paper on him. But like, how much time can you spend with him not doing Spider-Man stuff with Doc Ock?
Well, yeah, I mean, and they spend a good amount of time with Peter Parker and Doc Ock in that kind of
Yeah, before he becomes Doc Ock.
yeah, like they do a good amount of that. They build that respect, that kind of paternal admiration, if you will, in him and all that.
But
kind
then
of
I
stuff.
feel like it's completely gone once he's Doc Ock, because
100%.
Doc
And-
Ock has no connection to Peter Parker or Spider-Man. Like, it's
Yeah.
even to the point where Peter Parker Spider-Man takes off his mask to connect with Doc Ock, and he's just like, oh yeah, the smart but lazy kid. Like,
Yeah.
he's just like, that's just not a thing for him, because
Yeah.
he's focused on building his machine again.
Yeah, he's just like, well, my wife's gone, and she died because of this thing. So
I don't think he cares about the wife thing. I think he's very much just like,
well,
the arms are telling him you need to finish what you started.
yeah, the AI is basically taken over at that point.
Yes.
Which is because they make that such a good point of and show it, like they do a lot of good stuff to be like, I'm going to show you exactly what prohibits these things. Like Sam Raimi gets ahead of a lot of things
Yes.
in
Yeah.
this. And that is, to me, quite impressive, because
I do like the Doc Ock stuff. I feel like
Yeah.
all of that stuff works. It's just I feel like he gets sidelined while
he
we're
does get
dealing with
silent.
the
Absolutely.
Peter drama
I
stuff.
like the writing around Doc Ock. I like the idea that it's like, okay, here's the neuroinhibitor strip. It means I'm always, and then it's like, oh, I'm explaining this to the shareholders. It doesn't feel forced, and it's a really, really interesting way of doing a lot of these things, and also explaining why the tentacles woke up during the surgery, kind of thing.
Mhm.
It does a lot. There's a lot of explanation, and then showing you exactly the consequences of those things immediately afterwards. So everything's well written and explained from his perspective.
I
And
agree.
I think because of that attention to detail, his development might have been lost, or his screen time might have been lost in that process. Is like, because the reason why he's not a part of or menacing the whole city right now is because he just wants to build a machine. So he's got his stuff, he's building a machine, and that's arguably going to take months. So like everything about him makes so much sense that you're like, oh yeah, this really is strongly a Peter-driven story.
Well, yeah,
And
because the menace to Peter is like what we said, is that he's not being honest with the people he cares about.
correct.
Doc Ock isn't a menace specifically until he takes Mary Jane away from Peter.
Yeah, and through that, that's just like a necessary step. It's just like,
Yeah.
okay, well, it's just to get the tritium. And that's all he's doing it for. It's a contract position thing. He's got literally nothing. He just uses information. It's like, oh yeah, Peter likes Mary Jane. I know Peter. Cool. This will.
And he does, I guess, yes, and he does take Aunt May again, just because he was just like, I'll take you because I don't want to be shot at by the cops.
Yeah, and I think that's a funny thing that works. The thing that's frustrating to me about Peter in this movie is that he continues to make the same decision when he's continuously presented with evidence against his own theory of being like, no, your thing doesn't even make sense anymore. You weren't doing you weren't doing the Spider-Man stuff with Aunt May.
Yeah.
And that still happened. You know what I mean? In the
It's
bank.
the second movie where she gets abducted by the villain.
Yeah, and like the villain does not know your identity yet.
Yeah, doesn't care at all.
And she's just completely a bystander, and it still happened. So it's just like the idea of him holding that vital piece of information away from the people he loves kind of makes it so that it's just like, hey, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm doing this to try to protect you. But in reality, them knowing would help them so much more. And I like the fact that MJ actually addresses that head on at the end, in the finale of it all.
And I like that in Homecoming, the explanation is like, Aunt May doesn't know because her husband was shot to death. So if she finds out her nephew's going around like putting himself in harm's way, that's just going to stress her out. And I don't want that.
Right.
That makes sense to me.
That. Yeah, that makes much more sense to me than what they do in this, because it is like in this they could do it so much better. That's what annoys me so much about this is that May Parker is so much older here. Clearly, if you were to spin any kind of medical issue of like, no, her heart can't take it or something like that, that would make sense to me, 100%. But then you put Marissa Tomei in that same position. Her heart can't take it. I believe that a lot less.
Her emotional heart couldn't take it. But I think it's more like, it also helps that he looks younger, so I believe that he also would just have that logic of like, I just don't want the headache. I don't want the headache of my aunt being upset about this decision.
And then it's also much more believable in the Homecoming situation where it's just like, I can't do this. Literally, she takes care of me. I'm
Yeah.
under her roof and all that kind of stuff. I can't piss off the mouth that feeds me. Like, I can't bite the hand that feeds. There's so much more that makes sense about what Peter Parker in Homecoming in the MCU does versus the Tobey Maguire stuff. Because it's just like, no, dude, you're living on your own right now. None of these are issues to you. You're doing all these things, and then arguably you say you're busy all the time, but then the camera really focuses a lot on you just
sitting there alone. Yeah,
a lot, interacting with the landlords, and you not paying rent. Like, that's a
I
lot.
thought all that stuff was in the third movie. Like, I don't like, not that we're covering it, but I'm like,
Right.
what happens in that third movie then? Because the conversation he has where he basically is like, I'm the reason why Uncle Ben died. I thought that was in the third movie, or when Aunt May is like, it's fine, and this kid needs a Spider-Man to look up to. I thought that was in the third movie, and I definitely thought all the rent stuff. I know it obviously will come back, but I thought all the rent stuff, or even the landlord's daughter kind of having a crush on Peter, I thought all of that was in the third movie. So I'm like,
Yeah.
what even happens in that movie? But
Yeah.
anyway, like, I think you're right. Like, it's weird, and I know that this movie isn't trying to put too much of a point on the fact that he is trying to protect Aunt May. I know that one is more just like he's guilty that he hasn't told her yet that he's the reason Uncle Ben died.
Yes.
But like, it's just all those scenes of him sitting around, like, just looking out the window. I'm like, surely this is the time you could be doing Spider-Man stuff.
Or
You
school.
have nothing to do. Like, I could.
Yeah, Kurt Connors makes such a
You could be
big
doing
point
something.
about you being brilliant but lazy. You could, like, it could art, like, and this is the thing I hate most about this Spider-Man is that so the cartoon Spider-Man, everything else, the high school Spider-Man, it shows that he's fundamentally doing stuff, not just wasting time.
Yeah.
That he is so busy that even when he makes plans on his best friend Ned to build that Lego Death Star, which is something that arguably anyone, including under the age of 90, would be happy and excited to do, putting together that Death Star thing, he still, like, bails on that to be Spider-Man and do all that kind of stuff. So, like, that one, in the MCU one, it successfully shows how much less time he has and how much more jumbled he is versus this one, where it's just like, you're literally sitting around doing a lot of nothing. And then the idea here too is that he's distracted all the time for, like, stupid reasons. So even in the scene where he's like, oh, okay, well, with the J. Jonah Jameson and his son and all that kind of stuff, it's just the idea that he can't even take the lens cap off, and, like, dude, you're so distracted, you're so whatever, it's just hard to be behind you, and whatever you're doing, it's just weird.
Yeah, I think all of that is trying to play into this thing of, like, he needs to be honest with the people he loves, because it is affecting every part of his life. I know that lens cap thing is played for jokes, but I can see them feeling like that's still layered into what is having this adverse effect on his life. And what even happens with Harry in this one? In this one, is he just like, shut up about it, Harry, we gotta save MJ, so just tell me where she is?
That's 100, essentially it. That's
is that it? Like,
yeah.
Harry's like, so you're Spider-Man, you're the one that killed my dad, fuck you. And he's just like, yeah, shut up about that, I gotta find MJ.
Yeah, basically he's just like, listen, there are things at play bigger than you and me right now. I gotta go do this. Tell me where he is. And that's it. That's where he leaves it. And, like, so one of the biggest things I will say about this movie is that the thing that falls apart for me in this one is that I believe that Harry should have been Green Goblin in this one. I feel like that would have helped it out a little bit better, because you could get so many more, like, oh, okay, the time, like, all the criticisms we're talking about, like, it's just like, oh, if Harry was actually Green Goblin, Toby had to figure that kind of stuff out. I think it'd be a little bit more interesting, but it's just that this movie suffers from so much that I didn't see before, and I don't know where my criticisms are right now, to be perfectly honest.
I think you're right that because they've decided to put Harry in it so much, it would have made more sense if he was the villain, but, like, I feel like if he was just going to be Green Goblin Part 2, it would have been like, oh, so 2 Green Goblins in a row. He would have to be I mean, whatever he was in the third movie, that only works because you already have Venom and Sandman. So you don't
Yep.
have to be like, what the fuck is this shit? Like,
Yeah.
you could just be like, oh, okay, that's what Harry's doing. And he becomes a hero at the end anyway. So it
Mhm.
doesn't matter. But like, yeah, it would be hard to try and pull two Green Goblin villains in a
Yeah.
row.
Well, I
think.
mean, that's essentially what they no, in a row, back-to-back movies.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
100%. But so I mean, I get why they delayed it because they were wanting to keep the character trilogy arc, I guess, to really become like this is.
I mean, that third movie, who knows what they were
It's a
thinking?
disaster piece.
But like, but for the second one, I can see them being like, okay, we did Green Goblin. Let's hit his next biggest villain, Doc Ock. I get that, like that feeling of like, all right, we've hit like his two main people that like have had very serious effects on his life.
Yep.
But you're right. Like, it would have made more sense if he was also Green Goblin in this. I could just see it being like, we just did that. And because the movies, and maybe it would have worked because the movies came out so close together, but I also feel like it would have felt like, yeah, we just did this.
Yeah. I don't know. I just would have preferred that final fight with Doc Ock, and it would have been I just kept thinking like, well, Harry could have thrown that knife thing a lot earlier and then figured out the equipment and then just done it and then gotten into that third fight and then developed something else for the third movie. But like, I don't know, like this.
Oh, if you're saying he should have just done it for the final fight, no. I would say if he was actually just an active part of it, like he took on the Green Goblin persona to seek out Spider-Man, that makes more sense because then you are actually tying Sam Raimi's love of Peter Parker to the villain because...
Oh, no, yeah, that's... Sorry, I mean, like, he would have been developing that and then you would have seen it in the final fight kind of deal. Like, it wouldn't have been Doc Ock and... I don't know.
To me, if you're just making it for the end scene, like, I don't... Yeah, that's to me is the same thing. It's just like for me, the point is to have the actual villain be tied directly to Peter. And for me, what I thought you were saying was just have it be that James Franco, either in between movies or at the beginning of the movie, figures out the Green Goblin layers. Like, okay, I'm going after Spider-Man now. And the tension can keep going and keep getting ratcheted up as he gets closer and closer to finding out who Spider-Man really is.
Oh, no. I guess, that would be a better way of putting it, writing it in this one, because it gives them something more. Yeah, it makes much more sense. Yeah, sorry, I gotta think out loud sometimes.
Yeah, of course. I think I'm happy that they chose Doc Ock because it's something different. I like a big fan of just doing different villains just because of the way these work. Like, it's fine in comic books to just be like, yeah, okay, like we're doing a Green Goblin run now, or even on a TV show, but for a movie, just like the way they work, used to work anyway, that anticipation of like going to the theaters and it's like, yeah, for some like a new experience, not like, oh, okay, yeah, we saw him last movie.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we've seen this, now it's better. That's what it is now. Until like truly immersive virtual reality 3D filmography comes in, then that'll be the same thing. Anyways, the one thing I want to talk about Mary Jane Watson a decent amount here because her actions in this movie piss me off a decent amount too.
Interesting.
The idea of like, okay, so I would think that after the events of the last movie where they're like, okay, we're going to establish ourselves as friendship and all that kind of stuff, that she's going to make an honest to God effort to establish that as a platonic heterosexual friendship.
Why would she do that? She didn't actually agree to that. She just got told, I'm just going to be your friend.
Well, that's a limitation, but now she's engaged. Well, and then she's like, the thing that it's the engagement to boyfriend thing. It's just throughout the whole thing. It's just weird to me. I don't like it.
Oh, that part is weird. But I was like, if I were her, I wouldn't try to engage in an actual friendship with the person that I was like, I love you. And
I meant entirely after she establishes, no, I'm with this person now. We're engaged now. And
but all of that stuff to me felt like until she gets engaged, it felt like I'm seeing someone. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Okay, you've seen me with him. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
And then they have the conversation, and she's like, all right, I'm going to stop holding out hope for this. Yes, I'll marry you. That's how I saw it. I didn't ever see that as a genuine, like, I'm with someone I actually care about. I think it
Yeah.
was like,
No,
okay, this guy
what I think.
likes me.
That's
I
what I
want
think.
to see what happens when Peter sees me with someone and
Yeah.
realizes I'm not just going to wait around for him.
And that's what I find really, really shitty is that, oh, you're just basically using him, John
Yeah.
Jameson.
Oh, yeah.
Do this, and then you're going along with every aspect of it, and just like, it just sucks. I feel bad for him is what I'm saying.
I definitely feel bad for whatever his
shitty.
name is,
Yeah.
the astronaut. It's not fair at all to him.
Yeah. He's just going along with it and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, nope, don't like you. I don't like what this is happening right now. This is very selfish. Disagree.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying. Like, it's hard to like engage with these three leads. I know that
Yep.
Harry is less so of a lead, but the three returning like core group here.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, Harry's got his own thing going on, but like Peter's being not great, and so is Mary Jane in terms of being like
They're both being selfish.
Yes, they're all being selfish. I'm not saying you can't write it that way. Like that, if that's just your take, like these young people who haven't really done much growing up decide that's how they want to operate, that's fine. But it's also kind of like, yeah, but like I don't like them. Like I don't I don't like that you did that. As a kid, yeah, I was like, I'm glad that they're finally together because that's what I know. Peter Parker and Mary Jane.
And see, that's the funny thing. That's what I was thinking is like, man, the last time I watched Spider-Man 2, I remember thinking, oh, good, they're finally together at the end of this. And now I just think, I'm like, you're using him the entire time. You suck. This is not cool.
But like I also think the interesting thing is they do the whole the graduate ending where it focuses on Mary Jane at the end after she says, go get him, Tiger. I'm like, you don't look happy. And I don't even think they end up together anyway in Spider-Man 3 because he hits her. Well, that was a real bold choice they made. He hits her and then they break up.
Does he really?
Oh yeah, he hits her when he goes to the club because he's on Venom or whatever the fuck he's on. The symbiote made him do it.
You know what? I know we're probably not going to review it, I need to rewatch it. What's that?
We aren't. I mean, unless it's serious and like no movies are coming out till like 2021.
And unless there's a big, engagement and request from our listeners to be like, finish this off. Like, let's leave this whatever. Let's not leave this undone. And the reason why is right now, again, to reiterate to everyone listening, is because we don't want to just shit on something for 2 hours if it's not universally liked. We want to explore what we like about them, what holds up, what doesn't, what works well, and all that kind of stuff. And if things didn't work well back then, it's not likely to work well now. So that's the whole rationale for why we're not doing 3. But we still will watch 3. Well, I will watch 3 just because I can't leave it unfinished like this. Yeah. And then just basically go over what happens in that movie now, because you're right, there's so much of 2 that I thought was 3.
Well, Harry makes her break up with Peter to like hurt his feelings.
Yep.
She like breaks off his engagement or whatever.
Yeah.
But he also hits her in like a heat of the moment thing in a club. He goes to like where she's working and then like gets really upset and hits her. And I'm like, ugh, what a weird movie. Anyway, so it doesn't even feel like Sam Raimi intended for them to be happily ever after, because it's like, okay, they're together, and then like right away, and it doesn't even wait till the next movie to show the cracks. It's like, no, she's kind of second guessing her decision here too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just like when, oh God, seeing that crack in her smile was not fun for me this time around, because I'm just like, oh no. I know that this is already, it's just not good. It's, why are you already painting that picture of it's like it's already doomed to fail? We know it, just like that crack in her, it's just like, oh, yeah, great. No, you can't live up to it. You can't do what you said you wanted to do. You know.
I still like the writing of "Isn't it time someone saved you," Peter Parker. Like,
oh, I love that.
That still works for me. It's just so I can intellectually be like, that's a good way of framing this. Of like,
correct.
All right, shut up about your whole I I have enemies. This isn't fair to you. I'm here because I love you and I want to like help you.
Mhm.
And so like that is, I get that motivation. I get how that works after all this time she spent. And
Mhm.
I feel like it would have been nice if she did actually save him. I mean, she tries, but she doesn't really. Like Aunt May actually saves him earlier in the movie when she hits Doc
Yes.
Ock, but Mary Jane tries to do the same thing and she just gets like knocked to the ground. And you're like, oh man, like they just do not respect her at all.
Yeah, they're really, really making her weaker than what she's supposed to be, or who she could be, or whatever. Like,
Definitely who she could be. She
yeah,
could be a stronger and to the movie's credit, it does. I mean, they still do the screaming thing, like, but now every female character has to scream, and I'm like, what is
correct.
like? It felt like Michael Bay almost. Like some of the shots, I'm just like,
Yeah, no, that's one of the things I was gonna say. Like there's some gratuitous, like
yeah,
ridiculous Michael Bay level stuff going on here, and I'm just like, I did not remember that. I don't
I don't
remember
like.
web slinging stuff, and I'm like, oh, you're doing an undershot from two young women.
Yes,
I'm like, what? There's no need for that whatsoever. It felt very Michael Bay.
it's a weird thing, and so yeah, they still make her scream, but at least during the like her kidnapping, she's like, all right, buddy, like you got what you needed. You can let me go now. This is stupid. And I'm like, well, she's like not just screaming now. She's actually trying to like stick up for herself. Because like the first movie is just her dangling on the bridge, like, ah, and you're like, I guess that shows growth. Like she's been here before, and this is way less perilous than the being on the bridge.
Yeah, you know what I think I hate a lot about this movie too is the idea that like between the events of the first one and this one, there's been no other second villain. So you'd think that the logic here starts falling apart because this is the second time he's encountered a super villain, so to speak.
Well, I don't know that that's the case. I think they're just not interested in telling that story.
Well, that's fair, but okay, it's my assumption that there hasn't been a
I
different
guess you
level.
could make that assumption.
That's my assumption in
Yeah.
this anyway. So the day-to-day activities of Spider-Man are in fact what they show us they are. Him going into burning buildings, him pulling pedestrians on the street, stopping bank robberies. Like those are the basic things. Like the logic of it falls apart when it's like my enemies. I'm like, okay, well, I don't think those gangsters, those street level people will have the resources to get to you as Peter Parker. Like that's the biggest thing to me.
I
Right?
mean, in real life, they would be able to. Whoever they work for, they could be like, "This
Oh
is
yeah, well
what's
I guess
affecting."
that's the Kingpin stuff, right?
Yeah, like they could just be like, "This is what's affecting our ability to rob the banks. Why
Mm.
don't we look into that?"
Yeah, it just feels like that kind of stuff is a lot like robbing a bank seems a lot less organized crime versus well, I mean the way that it's being shown here as as a holdup as opposed to a heist.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess I'm not really willing to make any assumptions because
Well, that's fair
it
too.
doesn't really matter. Like, it's not going to change the outcome of what's going on.
That is true. I'm just looking for more to add on to this.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, he's made his decision, so it doesn't really matter what the reality is. Like, if you're right and like these low-level bank robbers are never going to look him up and try and punish him, doesn't matter. And also, if I were him, if it happened once, it could happen again.
Yeah. One thing I will say that I liked a lot about this movie is that they do make a better display of the diversity and tapestry within New York. There's a lot of examples.
I actually thought it was less. There's more
Really?
speaking parts for diverse people, but there was less like mixed throughout the crowd stuff. I feel like there was way more white people, I thought, in this one who were just
Like
filling
as
out
background
like
people.
the crowd.
So yeah,
But you're
that's
right. Like there's people like Joy Bryant, Marcus Jeffries. There's like even Donnell Rawlings.
yeah.
Is it the guy from Hellboy? Like, is it Daniel Day Kim? I can't remember his name. Like, who's like helping him with helping Otto Octavius during
it's
that
Daniel Day-Kim.
thing. So you're Asif. Sorry, I can't remember his first name. The guy who's running the pizza parlor.
Yeah.
Is it Asif Mandif? I can't remember. Sorry, but like, you're right. There's more speaking roles for thing. But what I liked about the first one was that like it just him walking down the street, you were also like, oh yeah, this looks like the makeup of New York. This one felt way more sanitized in terms of what you see in the actual streets.
Okay. Interesting. I gotta well, I doubt I'm gonna rewatch it, but I did not know. I did notice that there's a lot more people of color, a lot more, well, a lot less cultural appropriation. Next to none, I should actually none. But a lot of people having like speaking parts that were just like a lot more diverse. Like the like Mr. Ditchkov, the Mr. Z's, the pizza owner place.
Sorry,
Like
yeah,
even
his name is Asif Mandiv.
yeah,
Mandvi.
yeah. Just and then Joseph Robbie Robertson. You know, a lot of there's a lot of
Bill
people.
Nunn, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that had a lot more things to do this time around that were people of color, but I didn't.
Well, I wouldn't say a lot more.
Well, yeah, that's
yeah.
I just
There are more people of color who have speaking roles.
Yeah,
I will say that.
I just
But I
found
wouldn't say they have a lot more to do.
Another thing that I thought was interesting is some of the background actors that are, of course, done bigger things like Daniel Day Kim, Joel
Phil
McHale,
Lamar.
Elizabeth Banks. Obviously, the Bruce Campbell stuff. It's a Raimi film, so he's always going to try to fit that in. So I thought some of those actors and Emily Deschanel. It's always fun for me to see like, oh, this is when you started beginning your career, and this is when you started getting like big ticket stuff like Community, as well as like what's Daniel Day Kim do, like Hawaii 5-0 or whatever.
Yeah, Hawaii 5-0.
Whatever.
Sure
Yeah,
that's it.
and then Emily Deschanel for before Bones and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really always fun to see that. And I'm like, hey, that's that guy from that thing. Always like that. It's fun. The Kurt Connor stuff. Now, my question to you is,
he's also on Lost. We should say Daniel Day Kim. I was like, wait, am I wrong? But yes, he is.
No, I think he was also on Lost. I just never watched Lost. The Kurt Connor stuff. I really like that they used that character in that vehicle format and all that kind of stuff. But do you feel like there was ever an intention of using him to become the Lizard?
Yeah, I think that was the fourth movie was going to be he's the Lizard.
Right.
Which is why the Andrew Garfield movie used Lizard, because they're probably like, whatever, we already have this in place. Like, we have an idea here.
Right. The infamous fourth movie in this franchise.
With Anne Hathaway and John Malkovich.
Yeah. What? I know you know much more about that than I do, because I know next to nothing about it. Because I thought they were like 3 trilogy. All right, it's done. Everyone's going home kind of deal. I did not realize it was an idea or a pitch for a fourth. What was the fourth?
No. Like I said, none of these movies were ever like, it's just going to be a trilogy, because everyone's like, we need to keep making these movies because we don't want the rights to go back to someone else.
Correct. Because you said Spider-Man's once every 2 years, right?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just know that they need to be, they can't just like be like, oh yeah, we're done now. That was nice. They need to like be actively working on Spider-Man stuff, or else the rights go back. Same with X-Men. Same with anything that isn't back at Marvel.
Correct.
I mean, obviously not X-Men anymore, but we were just talking about X-Men. That's why I brought it up. I don't know. I think they were just going to try and do Black Cat, Vulture, and I feel like, yeah, Lizard was a part of that. And the first scene was him capturing Mysterio, which was going to be Bruce Campbell, but I don't know that anyone has any concrete details past that.
Yeah. I just, I really enjoy hearing those kind of stories of what would have been or what was, and how they kind of...
It's hard. I don't think that Sam Raimi was into it anymore after how he was treated on the third one, so...
Yeah, because what happened to him on the third one?
They forced him to use
just like the studio,
Venom.
It was just too much studio stuff, right?
Yeah, they forced him to use Venom, which we've talked about before. He's not really a past the 60s Spider-Man type guy.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't like, and as we can see, if he's not really invested in a character, they don't really fare so well.
Yeah, which is exactly what happened with Venom.
And I think I also just don't like the third movie, because it was like, so why did we have to redo it so that Sandman's the one that killed Uncle Ben? Like, what a weird, like, can't it just be something else that Sandman did?
Yeah, I mean, can't you find, because basically that's representing Peter's forgiveness with the character. Why I don't understand why he
Which
can't.
was weird, because he's like, I forgive you, and then Sandman just flies away. I'm like, so is his daughter gonna die or not? Because he needed that money for his daughter.
Well, that's my assumption, is that he goes and robs more crime.
He's like,
'cause he
he's
never
like, it's
did
okay.
money.
Spider-Man forgives me. Don't worry about it, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like, hey, he's giving me his blessing. He's the guy that saves you, so logically, this has to cancel out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the Sandman stuff there. I really don't at all. I don't know why they need to reshoot it. It made no sense to me at the time. It still doesn't make sense to me now. I mean, visually, it was cool.
Yeah, when he first becomes Sandman and it's all based around the locket of his daughter, like that's all cool stuff. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I was just like, but why did they change it so he's the one that killed Uncle Ben? Like it's such a weird choice. Like surely he could have done something else that makes it like it would have shown more forgiveness if he did something recently that Peter has to forgive.
But even then, what's the goal of Peter forgiving Sandman? I always question that. Like, what's the reason why he needs to do it? It's
just because Sam Raimi wanted a story about forgiveness. I don't think there's a real good example of what that helps him with. Really, because really what they were dealing with was hubris throughout that movie. So I don't know what forgiving someone else has to do with your hubris.
Exactly. That's my issue with that movie is like when he turns Venom, when he goes emo Spider-Man or whatever, and he turns into a hilarious dick. It's one of those things where you're just like, wait, that doesn't make up for it. Like, and I get that he's like, it doesn't make sense. None of it made sense to me. I was just like, what?
Yeah, we're doing the bashing thing. Let's get back to Spider-Man 2.
Yes, true. Yeah, that very, very, very.
So Mary Jane, like, was that all you wanted to say about Mary Jane? I know we kind of went off on different tangents, but like, you just didn't like the way she treated the boyfriend.
Yeah, really didn't like that.
Used.
Yeah, really didn't like.
I mean, that is a trope, though. Like, I can't really be like, oh my god, they really made it. Like, it's just a trope. Like, there's always when there is like, will they, won't they?
Yeah.
There's always the casualty of the nice man or woman who is set up.
Well, regardless of whether or not someone's nice, someone's innocent. It's the idea that she strings him along the entire time and never fully commits.
My point was, I was trying to illustrate was that it's just a thing that's done. It's not really like, and yes, it is in this case important that they are nice because that does feed into the trope. Yes. The trope is that like, no matter how well-meaning this person is, because obviously as an audience on the whole, if they were a bad person, you're just like, well, yeah, obviously. It gives you the easy out of, well, yeah, they shouldn't be together. So it is important that they are a nice, well-meaning person because narratively, you're setting up like, okay, like how is he going to break this? Or how is this going to get broken up? Because there's no obvious reason other than the audience wants them not to be together for them not to be together.
Yeah.
So it is kind of just one of those things where like, sure, you can be mad at it, but it's also like there was probably 20 movies that year, TV shows that did the same thing.
Yeah, and that's that. I guess, yeah. And this is just we're reviewing this one. That's why I'm not just going after him. Sorry, I just don't like it.
No, it's valid to not like it. I just kind of like I'm also just used to being like, oh yeah, it's this trope again.
Yeah.
Some movies do it well. This one didn't. Some TV shows do it well, and some don't. It's just luck of the draw, I guess.
Yes, this one just doesn't do it well because in the other ones that do it well, there's genuine conflict between the two, and you get that, okay, well, do I leave this person? Do I leave this person? And this is just like, I feel no attachment. Because there's been no development between Mary Jane Watson and John Jameson in their romance. It's just like, yeah, none of me care. I don't care about this. No. I only care about this from the perspective of, oh, cool. That's how they do it in the comics or the animated show where there's like now they're setting up the Venom thing. That was the only cool thing about it. Was just
I just rewatched Sleepless in Seattle where Bill Pullman did a good job. Like he's the nice guy that you're like, yeah, I understand why Meg Ryan is with him. Cool. But then at the end of the movie, he's like, all right, let's be real here. Like this sucks. I hate that you want to be with someone else, but like, I don't want to be like your second choice. Like I would much rather like you be with that other person and I can find someone who likes me for who I am. Like, I feel like that's the only real way to go about it.
Yeah,
But
it is.
they didn't. But again, that movie is held up in high regard in terms of how it deals with like tropes and stuff.
Yes.
Whereas you would find that like 85% of the time it's dealt with it
Exactly like this.
people deal with it exactly like this.
Yeah. True. It's true. I just don't like that trope.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's all. What's the other stuff we got to talk about?
I guess in no uncertain terms, Harry is just like, I hate you because you stole MJ and you stole my dad's love, which I was like, is that how he would like vocalize that? That seems like it doesn't seem like something he would say.
Yeah,
but I think it's they needed to get it out there because it is the feeling you get during the first movie of like even we talked about it, like, oh, like he has what Harry wants, which is like Norman's respect.
Yep, the adoration of his father. He brings it up here, and he just does. And then the love of MJ. He just feels like he genuinely feels that Peter stole everything from him.
And to be fair, like Peter's not even nice to him, and he has done damage to Harry's life. It's just like, I guess that's what I mean by this is a Peter movie. It's like it's not even concerned with Peter and his relationships past the point of he's not being honest with these people. Like there is no real time to engage with these conversations, and it's weird for that reason because he kind of is just like, all right. And then there's that slap fest, which it's like, fair enough, man. Yeah, like get your licks in because Peter is just a shit guy in this instance. Yeah,
he doesn't. Oh God, and this is the thing. Like watching Peter as a kid and significantly younger, early 20s or however, whatever age range it was when we were watching this, it was just like, oh man, you're such a hero. You're so tortured. You're all these unfair things. And now I'm just like, dude, it's because you're not able to just have an honest conversation. Like this is like, you suck, man. Like
you should definitely just tell Harry what happened.
Yeah.
What, like, you know what, buddy? Like you think you're saving him, but you killed his dad. So
you're just causing him more emotional.
Maybe just let him have that. Like,
just have an honest conversation with him and be like, look, this is what your dad did. This is what happened. I know you probably don't want to believe me, but what else can we do right now? And it's just like, dude, just have the conversation. This movie, like, I hate watching Peter in this one. Because I'm just like, you're just being a fundamentally shitty person and just selfish at the end of the day and not wanting to deal with anything. And then the whole movie is basically you dealing with everything because you refuse to deal with it in the first place. It just, things have exploded because you didn't deal with it. For like Harry exploded, MJ, all this kind of stuff. It just, everything around you explodes because you refuse to deal with it preventatively like an adult. And it's not even interested in dealing with, okay, is Peter growing up? Is he learning from this? Is he now having these conversations in the third one? He doesn't. He doesn't.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's all hubris by the third one.
Yeah.
Like even before the symbiote hits, he's doing dick things like, I'm going to recreate the kiss that I shared with the woman I love. With this, like, I don't mean nobody, but like this ostensibly like person you don't have any connection with, and like do it in front of the world. I'm to do this in front of the world, and like he's all like dancing to the music they're playing for him, and like it's like, oh yeah. And throughout this movie, you're right. Throughout this movie, it's just him shutting people down. Like you still owe rent. Like just because you're poor, like you can't just be like, nah, I'm not gonna talk to you. I don't have to deal with this.
Yeah, I can't run. I'm gonna run away from him. Maybe if he doesn't see me, like what the hell is like? It's just like, dude, deal with some of your problems. Like there's a reason why everything's falling apart around you, and it's not okay.
And so like it would be weird, and it's weird that like all of that this movie feels like a setup to like watching him actually deal with his issues. But then by the third movie, it's like, nope. He still doesn't really deal with his issues.
No, he doesn't. And that's the thing that bothers me the most is like, time and time again, here's all the evidence of what your decision making is doing, and it sucks and it's stupid. Do something different. He still does the exact same thing. It's just that he's like, he just gives in to MJ. I feel it's just like, it's not like, oh, you know what? It's not like a discussion where it's like, you have a valid point. It's just literally, there's a woman of my in the doorway.
I think it works for me. For me, it works. I again, it's not written, but the way he reacts in that moment of just responding with "Thank you, Mary Jane," I understand that to be this cathartic moment of like, finally, like, thank you. Like, I feel like that is a genuine, not just him being like, oh, okay. I think that's genuinely him like, okay, we've done this now for how many ever years. This just happened. You left someone at the altar.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, like, I feel like that is a switch going off for him, like, of actually being like, oh my God, thank you so much.
Okay.
That works for me.
That works for you. Okay. It's just, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work for everyone, but like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that scene, and it's just weird because then it's undercut with her being like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, go get him, Tiger. And then like, he's having fun. And then it just cuts back to her being like, oh boy.
Yeah. I do appreciate that delivery of that line though. Because it was,
right.
I thought, like, for a lot of things that I shit on for Kirsten Dunst, she delivered that line really, really well. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it must have been one of the days that she was into it. I don't
know. Yeah, it's the regret on her face instantly is so, like, why did Raimi do that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't feel like the way, like, when you watch, I don't like Dark Knight Rises, but it does feel like a payoff to a bunch of stuff that was set up in, for me specifically, Batman Begins. But yes, it does have some immediate payoff from Dark Knight as well. But that trilogy as a whole feels like, all right, this was the vision and this is how they executed it. And I do feel like a certain element of this Raimi trilogy was like, yeah, it's about Mary Jane, but as we talk through these movies, it's not like we're convinced they should be together. And it does feel like that movie is doing, these movies are doing that intentionally to be like, this is what he wants, but should this actually be? And then the fact that the third movie ends with them not together, and most of the movie they're not together, I feel like that means something. I feel like that is intentional to be like,
yeah. Well, I
don't
like
know.
He's only interested in exploring the tortured hero thing. I think he's only being like, oh, this is the reality of heroes, is they all have to be tortured. They always have to give up something, and they can't ever be happy. They can't have it both ways. When I'm just like, well, this hero, this Peter, yes, can't have it both ways, because this Peter is not capable of factoring other people into his life in a way that's respectful. And he just does it from an air of like, oh, for some reason I have to protect you, and this is how I've decided to protect you. And then I'm not having a discussion about this. He does it for everyone in his life. He just shuts it off. He's not a likable Peter. It's not a tortured Peter. It's not like that. It's just, if he was actually like that and he wanted us to empathize with him, I feel like this should be a Peter where he's completely void of a social life. And he's like, for example, a hermit. He's like, okay, now, and I guess now he's like, okay, well, he's doing work. He's doing his schoolwork completely online, all this kind of stuff. He's like, oh, he literally has made that decision. He's going to be a hermit and just be Spider-Man and all that kind of stuff. You can empathize with that a lot more. But this is just like, no, you want to have your cake and eat it too, but you don't want to tell anyone or talk to anyone about it. Sucks.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to root for him because he is so visibly shit to the people that care about him.
Yep. Yeah.
And he's got nothing but grace for people who don't care about him.
Correct. He holds those people in high regard, which is very, very frustrating to see.
Well, I just mean, like, even when it's like he is late, but like the fact when like he's trying to deliver the pizza and she's like, I'm not paying for that, and he's just kind of like, oh, okay, but it's like, I don't know, like, say something snarky, do something, like, fight back, nerdlinger. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Just be like, it was 2 minutes. Like, come on. Like, be like, if I lose this, like, just put up some sort of fight. Don't be like, God.
He just literally just walks away. He's just like, yep, Well, you're right.
Yeah, he takes his bungee cord and walks away, and that's it.
And also, it bugs me every time. I'm like, why did you take that slice back? Like, who wants that pizza? Well, who wants that pizza now?
Yeah, I'm like, how can you convincingly
Just leave the pizza. Like, leave the whole pizza. That's too bad. Like, you're already fucked. Just like,
I don't see a system in which case I don't even know how. Well, I guess the vents. Yeah, that would make sense. The vents. Whatever.
oh, how he got in and was
How he got into
janitor
the closet.
I've also always just been like, oh, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
I'm
this
just
is they're doing this for jokes right now. This is not supposed to be something I like need
Yep.
to care about.
Yeah. And okay, and here's the other thing that bothers me too is, and I get why they did this, but it numerically bothers me that it's a 29-minute guarantee as opposed to a 30. Just, I get why they wouldn't round it off. So you said like, oh, we're 1 minute better than the competition.
Right,
I get that, but it just the number itself bothers me. 29 minutes. I'm like, oh, that's just it bugs. Like I'm the kind of guy that can't watch something if I know the volume is an odd number, but not a multiple of 5.
Okay.
Like if I'm watching TV with the volume of 33, I think it's psychotic.
All right.
Volume has to be a number of a multiple of 2 or 5. That's it. So
good to know.
The 29 thing bothered the shit out of me. That's not anything I'm actually criticizing.
No, I didn't think you were.
No.
I mean, if you're not going to talk about it on your podcast, where else are you going to talk about it?
Yeah, it's just shits and giggles.
Yeah, I don't. What else is there to talk about? This, I like that Aunt May knows now, right? Is that what no, she doesn't know he's Spider-Man. She just knows he's responsible for the death of Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
That's got to be a weight off his shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's nice. I think
they're
obviously playing the long game with Harry, but it's just like he's just so shit to him. Like what I've never, like, as I said, even during the first movie, I never believed they were actually friends.
Yeah, I don't. I feel like
I know that in the comics, they're always, it's just they're in close proximity, so it's not necessarily their best friends. They just know of each other.
I just feel like these movies, social outcasts, but less so. I feel like the relationship is like, oh, we're hanging out together because we're social outcasts, but we're not really friends, kind of deal. Because at no point in time does he do that.
That's how it plays out, but the dialogue is that they're best friends.
Yeah, and it's just like, no, you're not. That's weird. Like the way, even I think, I can't believe I'm saying this. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 does a better job of setting that up and dealing with that.
Well, it does a better job because it's like he got sent away to boarding school, so it's like it makes sense that they feel a bit distant because they've missed some time together.
No, but that friendship, the friendship actually makes more sense to me in Amazing Spider-Man 2, just like between him and Harry. That's it. Not just that distancing thing and you and I, like the friendship alone was better to me than this.
Doesn't make more sense to me. I'm just like, okay. But both movies feel like they're just like, this is from the comics.
Totally.
I think they are trying. Sorry, I'm just being very distracted right now. But I think they're trying to get to a place where you're like, oh, like there's no way that they could ever be friends again. And then in the third movie, when Harry sacrifices himself for Peter, I'm just like, yeah, typical. Peter's the worst. He's gonna get you killed.
Yeah.
I don't. Now that we've rewatched these two movies, I'm like, he shouldn't have saved him. I'm like, he put him in a coma in the third movie.
Yeah.
To be fair, he was trying to kill him, but like, I'm just like, it's weird that it ends on them being friends.
Right. I don't. Yeah. That whole relationship seems so forced to me. It just. Oh God. And the thing that hurts a lot about this movie, or the thing I feel that I don't like about this movie, is the idea that he's still being treated the same way he gets treated in high school, where it's just like he's such a social pariah that he gets treated like that. Even in when he drops his books, like no one's willing to help, like all that kind of stuff. I don't know, like it just doesn't work well for me to be like, you're that unliked, except for the one.
The book thing doesn't really feel like it's personal the way the first movie feels personal.
Well,
I
this is
think that's just indifference,
it just feels
which makes sense to me. Like, why would they care that he dropped his stuff?
yeah, that's fair. I just feel like
They're
oh,
not going out of their way to do anything bad to him.
yeah.
I
No, I just
think
find it very interesting the decisions that are made where it's like, okay, you decided in terms of direction to be like you decided to over exaggerate these things, but then underemphasize this performance from both Toby and from Kirsten Dunst. Is what I'm saying. It's just like it's inconsistent where it's going, and that bothers me.
I think all the movies are equally inconsistent that way because there's
Yes.
obvious moments where he's like, and now I'm doing my horror thing, and now I'm doing my comedy thing, and
It's
now
true.
I'm doing my like. So it's a valid criticism, but I'm also like, yeah, that's the movie. Like, I feel like you would be on board with that. Like, I feel like that's part of the charm of it is that people like that there's these obvious segments that he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I just yeah, it's very, very okay. Cut. Here's the section, here's the section, here's the
Yeah.
section. This is gonna be funny now, or this is gonna be very, very high school movie type thing.
Right.
Like it's just segments and blocks of it's like okay, and that is one thing I did notice this time around a lot more. It's a lot less cohesive because it's like that. It doesn't flow together very, very well. It's just like here's the comedy section, here's the high school romance section or the young adult romance section.
Mhm.
Here's the action sequence. Here's the monster sequence. Here's the horror. Here's this. Like it doesn't work as well for me this time around.
Oh, because I was going to ask, you did say you were looking forward to the horror stuff. Like,
No, I mean I was looking forward to it. I loved it. It's so much fun, and I still do because it's like the most enjoyable part of this whole thing.
so specifically when Doc Ock is like on the operating table. Yeah.
Correct. That is the most enjoyable thing. What I'm complaining about is the lack of cohesion between those sections.
Right.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. But I do specifically love those horror-themed elements, like when the whole surgical team's getting like thrown out, and all this kind of stuff, and attacked, and like every part of it's fun to me because I'm like, yeah, horror, let's go.
Yeah. I think that scene definitely holds up for what it is, right? Like I don't like that type of stuff
Correct.
anyway, but like I think knowing what is trying to be achieved there, it holds up. It's like it still works. And for me, the kind of disconnected feel of like, oh, we're all of a sudden going to be doing this now. I just grew up with that, like in terms of these three movies, being like, that's just what he does. That's what I guess that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. One question I have for you, because last time we talked about the visual effects and the web slinging and the sense of fun. This movie, to me, it seems like more people are having fun. Not so much Spider-Man, but to me, very, very specifically, Doc Ock seems to be having fun with
especially when he's robbing the bank.
Correct. Like that was so much better. Like that bank heist sequence or robbery sequence was so much fun because the fact that the bank had gold coins is hilarious to me. Like that is just so over the top. Like that does not make sense whatsoever. Like that's not real currency. Why is it gold coins? And like this is dumb. That was a lot of fun for me. But in that whole scene, he's just like he's cracking jokes. He's having a good time.
He's
robbing
like humming
that bank.
Fiddler on the Roof, and then when he's like got Aunt May on the tower and he drops her, just his delivery of "Oops, Butterfingers." I'm like, this guy's having a good time. Like, like good for him.
It was a lot of fun, but then you see the web slinging stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, it's not.
I would say by the end of it, I was just on board with how they chose to do the web slinging.
Oh yeah, the web slinging like scenes, the aerial shots, and like all the like great cinematography. But I'm just like at this point, I'm like, yeah, you're just using for transportation. I'm like that. The idea here is like I love the fact that Doc Ock was having so much fun in that one scene. It was great.
Yeah.
It was a refreshing thing. Also, J. Jonah Jameson this time around, a lot of fun. Like his role and like involvement in planning that wedding was so much fun to me. I loved it.
I love when Betty Brant is like, "Oh, your wife lost her checkbook," and he's like, great news. Thanks.
Thanks for the good news. Like, he's so much fun in this one. He's like, that brief moment was like, have I done it? Did I push him too far? Are these the consequences of my actions? And then he's like, he immediately switches back. It's like, no, I'm going to be angry again.
Yeah.
It was so much fun to watch J.K. Simmons do this role.
Or when he does the Doctor Strange thing. Or no,
Yeah.
I guess I don't remember what his name is, but Sam Raimi's brother is the one that's like, oh, Doctor Strange is like, great name. It's taken though. And I'm like, no. I guess they're really like doubling down on Doctor Strange being a part of this universe.
Yeah, because they're like already taken. That part was I forgot why. Like, I remember he says, "What about Doctor Strange?" I'm like, I forgot that his reaction was already taken. I'm like, oh, damn, that is right on the money. Yeah, he really wanted a Doctor Strange.
Yeah, well, I'm happy he gets to do Doctor Strange too, if people can ever make movies again.
Yeah, Ted Raimi, by the way.
Boom, Ted Raimi. Don't remember what he played in all of the different Xena and Hercules movies or shows, but he was in them and it was great.
Cool.
So that is Spider-Man 2. Didn't hold up as well, and I know we're just saying it again, but why not? For me, it's because the focus is on Peter and not necessarily Peter's stories, but just they really wanted to focus on Peter.
Yeah, it doesn't work so well for me because it's a movie that the main lead refuses to really have any form of significant character development, it's everything. It's frustrating to watch someone react to everything, and still like it's frustrating, this movie, to watch this time around.
Agreed.
Does not sit so well, but there are certain things that do still work really, really well. The tentacle scene, the transformation scene, like a lot of the writing, a lot of the
there's some really good moments. Is it just, I feel like it's the same writer as Jurassic Park? I might be wrong.
Really?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Well, that's fun.
I'm gonna look that up, but yeah, I think what you're right, that there's still strong stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Oh no, I'm thinking about the wrong thing.
Michael Chabon?
Yep, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I am wrong. Yeah, nothing to do with Jurassic Park.
Gotcha. Because I'm like, that would be kind of interesting as like a trivia thing. Just kind of now how I could be like, fun fact, did you know, crap. Who's the person that produces the Superman movies?
It's a good question.
Damn it.
Oh, sorry. The guy who did Jurassic Park did the first Spider-Man movie.
Oh, okay.
Not the second one.
Not this one.
Interesting.
So, I will also say that I've really come around.
His name's David Koepp, by the way. Sorry, I should give him credit. David Koepp.
I've now come to say, because I've shut on Danny Elfman's compositions in the past, and I've come around to it because I'm just like I'm realizing
that's a
now.
Weird choice by you.
Yeah, no, because the thing is, what I'm realizing is like I'm rewatching a lot of these, and I'm like, music by Danny Elfman. I'm like, huh. Do I like Danny Elfman? Because I
love Danny Elfman.
Yeah, I do now because I always like, for some reason, don't know why, but always pit him against John Williams. And like, there's a war in my head between Danny Elfman and John Williams, and I'm like, I'm team John Williams all the way. So I polarized it for no reason whatsoever. But I really enjoy his composition because, like, out of both films, everything he's done, I'm like, his composition has been consistent.
I love his Spider-Man score. It sucks that he wasn't on Spider-Man 3.
Yeah,
I feel like it suffers. Like the movie, it's not the score that ruins it, but that's also another part that sucks about that movie. But yeah, I love his Spider-Man stuff. I love his Batman stuff. People say they hate the Justice League score, but that's pretty much the only thing I revisit from Justice League is his score from it.
I thought Chunky XL.
Nope. He does Batman vs Superman and Man of
Steel.
Oh,
right. That's what it was. It was not. Okay. Yeah. God, I don't know when I'm going to rewatch Justice League.
I haven't. I haven't rewatched it. I just like listening to the soundtrack. Or the score, not the soundtrack.
I've rewatched it at least once. I will have to rewatch it again before the Snyder Cut comes out, just to be like, how
It's
different
your
is it?
funeral.
I know I'm fundamentally wasting 2.5 or 3 hours close to, but hey,
What? No, Justice League isn't even 2 hours.
it's not.
Yeah, it's
Oh right,
under
it
two.
was super
That's the whole
short.
point.
What are you
Yeah, that's the
talking
whole
about?
point.
Oh, I was thinking about Batman vs Superman for some reason.
Yep.
Yep,
I
that
see.
was ridiculous long. Yep, for what it was. Anyways,
All right, so we're done with Spider-Man 2. Is that what I'm
yeah.
understanding here? All right, we're rating it now.
Yep.
All right, if we're rating it, I would give it a 7.5.
Yeah, I'm doing 6.5.
Fair enough.
I was just so much more disconnected to Peter this time around. I'm just seeing Peter this Peter in a very different light, and I don't like it.
I think, yeah, my big thing was like, how do people like this? Like, that was my thing, is like, this was universally loved. And I'm like, it must just be that, and I do agree with this, that the highs in this movie are higher than the first movie.
They very much are.
They're better, like, just the moments that work better than the first movie. Because everyone, like, across the board, like, oh no, that's a good movie, Spider-Man.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's still, to this date, considered that, in the sense where I think the current ratings across.
Yeah, but how many of those people just rewatched it?
True. That's exactly what it is. Like,
knowing what you know now, what's capable of it. Because even after the Amazing Spider-Man movies could come out, I feel like you'd be like, yeah, Spider-Man 2 is amazing.
Yeah.
But now that we've had the Tom Holland Spider-Mans, and I don't just mean his movies, but just him appearing in all the movies he has.
Correct.
It's hard to like look back at this and be like, yeah, this still holds up.
Yeah, it doesn't. No, it certainly doesn't. For a long time, because between us and our text conversations, we've always had, for I think a period of months, a discussion about whether or not Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, or Tom Holland was the better Spider-Man, Peter Parker. And it took.
I've always said Tom Holland.
You've always said that because you were objective about it. I was always tied to this notion that Tobey Maguire, for some reason, because I romanticized the Raimi trilogy, and I thought it was a lot better than what it is, and I'm glad rewatching it now. But now, and then even that months ago, I was like, yeah, Tom Holland's the better Spider-Man because of all the reasons that we talk about here. But now I'm just like, yeah, this is it's now rethinking about where Spider-Man 2 sits in my ranking of Spider-Man films. It's harder to think. But
I can't imagine it's changed that much for me, because it's going up against.
It's still going against
all the other ones, other than like the Tom Holland ones.
Yeah, it's still going up against not great competition. But to me now, what happens is like, Far From Home or Homecoming is automatically 1 or 2, depending on which one.
For me, those two are at the top.
Yeah, and because it used to be like, I tried to at least put Spider-Man 2 in between them for some reason, because I remember loving Spider-Man 2 that much more, and now I'm like, oh my god, no, I'm back to back MCU on top for Spider-Man film, and then launch into this, and then probably this being 3, because it's hard to get behind this Peter. That's all. It's easy to get behind Tom Holland's Peter, because he's so much younger. You get the mistakes that he's making. Everything he's doing is more consistent, makes more sense. He's
just a likable person. I don't mean that as the actor. I mean, what they've created on screen is a likable person.
Correct. Versus this Peter is not a likable person.
And I think it's that Batman 89 thing where they're just like, but you get it, it's Spider-Man, so just you project that onto him. But now that we've seen like what can be done to actually flesh out the character, it's like, oh, but you just left me with a shit person. Like, he's just a shithead the whole time.
And that, not only that too, it's just like, okay, well, other iterations of this character too bring those kind of secrecy things in so much better. Like specifically Miles Morales being like, no, the reason why he has got to keep his secrets are so much more complex, being like, okay, now that Prowler's a part of his family and all, like, it's just crazy cool, like what is written from that perspective. And like, this Peter Parker just does not connect well with me. He just he leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. Every other Peter Parker, or like every other Spider-Man, I should say, Gwen Stacy's Spider-Man. It's just like there's so, like, I mean, Spider-Woman. It's just like there's so many better ways of saying this kind of stuff, but it's just this version of Peter Parker sucks. It just sucks to me. I don't like him.
Well, there you have it. That's the definitive answer. Is Tobey Maguire good? No, he sucks.
Yep.
Also, his Peter Parker sucks. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening, everybody. We are part of That Shelf's podcast network. So please head to thatshelf.com. You'll find us. You'll find Bad Gay Movies, Black Hole Films, Changing Reels, Composers, and No Budget Nightmares. What a nice, lovely theme song. There are more podcasts, but you'll have to go there to find out what they are. And if you're looking for older episodes of Spoiled Rotten, please head to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. Also on Twitter, we are at tdfspoiled. Our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. We are on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Radio Public. Oh my goodness, you name it, we're probably there. So please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends and get in touch with us. Thank you very much for listening to my rant.
Cheers.
Bye-bye, everybody.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.